Hey everybody, this is Deb with Truthification Chronicles, and I'm going to talk today about a huge masquerade and some ideas on how to avoid being tricked into things. And I'm going to start out first with this verse. I know some of you are not religious, just bear with me. This is just to kick us off here. This is Paul talking about how there were some people who were masquerading as apostles of Christ. So they were putting themselves out as being these great Christians and everything, but they were just fake. Okay, they weren't real. And, we do see a lot of that today. And for 13 years, I helped run an online biblical counseling ministry in Yahoo Chat. And during that time, that's what we did. We helped people find out if they were really listening to the truth or if they were listening to lies. And a lot of that has spilled over into what I do now, because that's what I'm trying to find out politically what's going on. And you have to have a good deal of discernment and pay attention to little details when you're talking to people. And that's what we discovered in our ministry, that we really had to listen carefully and to examine what people were teaching. And so there were some tips and ideas that I came up with as we were doing that, because we had a great volume of people that we worked with. I mean, like hundreds of thousands of people over the 13 years. And so we picked up a lot of things that most people would not pick up on just because we had so much volume to work with. So I want to share some of those ideas with you today so you can avoid some of the traps. But I wanted to definitely point out this verse to you first. Again, he's talking about people masquerading as apostles of Christ. And he turns around and says, "And no wonder, for Satan himself masquerades as an angel of light. It is not surprising then if his servants also masquerade as servants of righteousness. Their end will be what their actions deserve." And we're seeing a lot of this today, where people are masquerading as good guys and they're not, or good women, whichever the case is. But this is something that's very concerning. And one of the reasons that I pointing this out is because someone gave this to me and I wanted to check out this website. I've never heard of Real News Right Now. And so I thought, okay, I'm going to check this out and see what it says. Well, it's a great headline. Barr appoints special counsel to determine validity of Obama's birth certificate. Yeah, great headline. And so I thought, okay, I read the article, but I noticed something in it. The first thing you need to look for when you go to a website you're not familiar with is you need to see if they have any sources on here. Who are their sources? Where did they get it? Well, this refers to an appointment of a special prosecutor to oversee a Justice Department investigation into the authenticity of former President Barack Obama's birth certificate. And then it has a quote from A.G. Barr. This is something that President Trump and I both agree is long overdue. And he told reporters during a press briefing at the Department of Justice on Tuesday. Okay, now when you come across something like this, you'll notice there are no links in here. So if he had a press briefing, where's the link to the press briefing? That should be right there. If it's not, start to be skeptical, okay? Because if this author can't document where he got it, you need to be skeptical. That was the first thing I noticed, that there's no link to that press briefing. So the first thing I did logically was go to the Department of Justice website. And it doesn't have anything here in the Justice News about it. And from the date on here, this up here says 6 days ago, and it says Tuesday. So that means it happened on May 28th. Okay, Tuesday, May 28th. So I'm looking for it. I'm not seeing anything. Of course, these are all June. All right, so maybe it's on the next page. We can go to the next page and scroll down. May 31st, May 30th, May 29th. Okay, we got to go to the next one. They do a lot at the Department of Justice. So we go through and look, May 28th. Okay. Phone provider found guilty. Justice Department settles immigration-related discrimination claim. Top U.S. environmental enforcement officials. Justice Department settles immigration-related discrimination claim. Okay, I see nothing there. There was a statement by Bill Barr on Memorial Day, but if you look at that, it's very short. And it has to do with Memorial Day. So no, that's not it. Then I went to the main page and I went to, okay, let's see if it's on the Attorney General's page, because he has kind of a page of his own here. And see, it has press room. So, okay, let's check the press room here. We look. Nope, nope. The only statement was on May 27th. Now, I can guarantee that if he said something of that magnitude, that there would be a press release on it. Or there'd be a video of him doing this presser. Okay, that's just what would happen. I don't care. That would be huge. So I'm starting to be skeptical, but I go back and I think, okay, where else can I look? Well, this is really important. And I used to do this all the time when people would come and talk about these weird religious groups they were involved in. The very first place I would go is to the about. Because when you go to the about, you're finding some information that you may not find elsewhere. First of all, look, we have this picture. Is it a photograph? Oh no, it's not a photograph. Again, be very skeptical. Really. And so the guy's name is R. Hobbes. You know, it's kind of weird sounding. Look at some of these things he talks about. Is an internationally acclaimed independent investigative journalist specializing in international politics, health, business, science, conflict resolution, history, geography, mathematics, social issues, feminism, space travel, civil rights, human rights, animal rights, fashion, film. One person does not cover all of these, okay? You know, journalists have like specialties. It's just not possible for one journalist to have all of these specialties and to write in all these areas. Okay? He may have an opinion on all those things, but it's not going to be something that's going to be valid. And there's simply no way with the amount of information out there that one person could ever cover all of those. Just impossible. Okay, so I'm really getting skeptical by this time. And I see this creative writing. Oh yeah, this guy's into creative writing. I bet. He has appeared in countless publications, including Time Magazine, Newsweek, Playboy, The Economist. First of all, these are all left-wing. Mad Magazine, another big thing there. Hustler, Guns and Ammo. And these are so different that there's simply no way one person's going to write for all of these. Every publication out there has something they call the slant. And when you write for a certain publication, you have to make sure that you match that slant. You know, the tone. Like, for instance, if you're writing for a horse magazine, you've got to know horses. You have to be very informed because you can't not know anything about horses and write an article. They're going to spot that you're bogus. I mean, that's simply the way it works. They need people who understand horses. They need people that know about saddles and bridles and how to train a horse and what to feed them and things like that. If you know nothing about horses and you write a piece for a horse magazine, the chances are very slim that you're going to be picked up on that you're going to be published in it. And for, like I said, for all of these, it really is ludicrous to think of one person coming up with all of these different things and being able to match the slant of all of these different topics. Just not going to happen. I mean, Guns and Ammo and Hustler and Mad Magazine. I mean, how different are they? So the chances are very, very slim that somebody would be able to be published in all of these. It also includes highlights, Maxim magazine, People. No, this is just not it. Oh, and then it goes on. The 9/11 Commission report, The New Yorker, Bon Appetit, Rolling Stone, Car and Driver, Soldier of Fortune, Elle, Nintendo Power, National Geographic, and many more. So, see, by the time you read this, if you actually read it, and the thing they're counting on is people won't sit there and read through this. If you get this far and you're saying, oh yeah, this sounds like somebody who's really good, you really need to hone your discernment skills, okay? Because by this time you're starting to see some things. He has received numerous awards for his work, including the prestigious Stephen Glass Distinction in Journalistic Integrity. Yeah, look these awards up. This one, the Oscar Mayer Award for Journalistic Excellence. Oh, so if you read through it, I mean, 3 Nobel Peace Prize nominations. Oh, right. 1 Pulitzer in investigative reporting. I don't care if he puts dates in there. Go look it up. Spend a few minutes looking these prizes up if you have to. By this time, I didn't bother looking at them because I know it's bogus. He resides comfortably in his modest home overlooking the coast of Nantucket, surrounded by his wife and 12 cats. So, yeah, this is bogus. Okay, this site has nothing going for it at all. And all these different topics across the top. One person's not going to be writing these. And so there should be a whole staff here, and it should have a real picture instead of this. And it shouldn't have bogus awards. So anyway, I'm sorry, and sometimes, I mean, if you didn't go to this about page, you probably would not have noticed these things, because they make these sites look professional, like they are real sites, like they are putting out real news. And that's the trick that they're doing. Remember, masquerading as angels of light. That's what they're trying to do. Masquerading as real news when they're not. Now, there are a couple more things that you can do if you come to a site like this and you think, okay, it's got a really good article that has something in it I want to believe is true. And that's the first thing. You kind of have to set aside, just because you want it to be true doesn't mean it is. And just because it's a well-written article or whatever doesn't mean it is either. His writing's not that great, though. But check out the guy. And if you check out the guy, I put his name in a search, and, you know, you can see that the only place it really talks about him is realnewsrightnow.com. That's the only place. And so once you start looking there, well, Mudrack, and even Snopes says the guy is not real. So, yeah. You just go on, and this is just something that when you look through it, you start seeing, well, there's no real news. And I'm not talking mainstream media. I'm talking some of the top alternative media, you know, like the Conservative Treehouse or DC Caller or something along those lines at least. But oh no, there's nothing like that. So again, we're talking somebody who is not real. And because there's no photo and it's a drawing, yeah, the person doesn't even exist. Who knows what the guy's real name is? So another way that you can test it, and these are quick and easy. You can test it quickly this way by copying the title and putting it into a search. When it comes up, don't put quotation marks around it, but let it come up. And if it comes up and about the only thing you see is that page right there, the same site, and of course this is his Facebook page. He has a Facebook page, and we'll talk about the reason for that in a minute. You know, if you go on, you see here, Barr appoints attorney to investigate origins of Mueller. Yeah, the Mueller investigation. Okay, that's legit, because if you put that in, you'll find tons of articles about it. But the fact that you come across no real articles except this one page, this one site, that's a problem. Another point, sometimes you'll see the exact title used on different websites because they take it and copy it onto their website. Again, be very skeptical if it's exactly the same wording. That shouldn't happen. If they're actually doing real reporting, different sites should have different wording of it. They shouldn't just take one article and put it on their website. So be careful about that. This is a quick and easy way to kind of vet what you're looking at. Because I'm telling you, there are many, many sites out there like this. And some people haven't developed the degree of discernment that I have, because I had 13 years of doing that. And well, I've continued after those 13 years. That's kind of what I do. And so I got really good at spotting things quickly. And when people, were referring me to these different little religious organizations, I could spot the problems pretty fast. And where maybe it didn't line up with the Bible or something, I can usually spot those pretty fast because I've worked at it and I've done it so many times. I've had so much volume of doing it that you get pretty good at it after a while. And so just take a few minutes. It really won't take very long, but it's worth it. If it's something sensational, if it's something you'd really like to believe about somebody in the deep state, and it's on a site that you've never heard of before, you might want to check it out first. It's better to vet than to get embarrassed about it later on and to have liberals call you out. Now, let's go on because I want to show you this article right here. This is from the Washington Post, and it was back on November 17th, 2018. This is an eye-opening article, and but you have to remember that it's written by the Washington Post, so that means it's going to have a bias here. And it's one of those things that if you read this article is really kind of embarrassing to me, in my opinion, because they made fun of a woman, and horribly so. Like, that was their whole purpose. And if you read through this, he says, nothing on this page is real. How lies become truth in online America. As it goes through here, it says the only light in the house came from the glow of 3 computer monitors, and Christopher Blair, 46, sat down at a keyboard and started to type. His wife had left for work and his children were on their way to school, but waiting online was his other community, an unreality where nothing was exactly as it seemed. He logged onto his website and began to invent his first news story of the day. Notice the key word there, invent. Yeah, and that's the purpose of this channel, truthification. This is what they're doing. And this guy does it for his own sake, but I'm going to show you his reasoning. He's got a purpose, what he wants to have happen. And unfortunately, there are many like this, and they have a similar purpose to him. Some of them are funded by Media Matters, and some of them just do it all on their own. But yeah, there is money in this. So let me go through and show you a little bit more here. And so what does he do? He puts breaking, and he puts out, maybe he would announce that Hillary Clinton had died during a secret overseas mission to smuggle more refugees into America. Maybe he would award President Trump the Nobel Peace Prize for his courage in denying climate change. Now, if you read through this article, it goes on and it talks about what viral insanity should we spread this morning. See, they know they're doing it. They're doing it on purpose. They're masquerading as angels of light. The more extreme we become, the more people believe it. And the problem with what they're saying is some of the things they're talking about are actually true, but they're putting their own spin into it. They're taking truth and they're making it into fiction. So a little bit of truth and a whole lot of fiction. That's what they're doing. And so it goes on, he launched his new website on Facebook during the 2016 presidential campaign as a practical joke among friends, a political satire site started by Blair and a few other liberal bloggers who wanted to make fun of what they considered to be extremist ideas spreading throughout the far right. In the last 2 years on his page, America's Last Line of Defense, that's what he calls his page, Blair had made up stories about California instituting Sharia, former President Bill Clinton becoming a serial killer, undocumented immigrants defacing Mount Rushmore, and former President Barack Obama dodging the Vietnam draft when he was 9. Okay, folks, if you fell for that one, 9? Really? Share if you're outraged, his posts often read. So be very careful if you're on Facebook and you see something that says, share if you're outraged. It may be one of his. And on Facebook and other social media, vet it first. Make sure that it's from a reliable source. So nothing on this page is real. Read one of his 14 disclaimers on Blair's site, and yet in America of 2018 his stories had become real, reinforcing people's biases, spreading into Macedonian and Russian fake news sites, amassing an audience of as many as 6 million visitors each month who thought his posts were factual. What Blair had first conceived of as an elaborate joke was beginning to reveal something darker. No matter how racist, how bigoted, how offensive, how obviously fake we get, people keep coming back. Where's the edge? Is there ever a point where people realize they're being fed garbage and decide to return to reality? Because, of course, you remember, liberals think that everything we believe is not reality. So if you go on through this, it really outrages you that he is playing people. And he knows he's doing it. He's doing it on purpose. What a horribly mean person this is. And I will say that about anyone, if they're conservative or if they are liberal. I don't care. If you're out there and you're purposely deceiving people, that's just unconscionable in my view. I cannot fathom people doing that. I may make a mistake once in a while, but I do it honestly, folks. If I thought it wasn't true, I would not tell you it was true. If I say something and it ends up not being true, again, I do it because I thought at the time that it was true. And if it's an opinion I'm giving you, I'm going to give you my opinion. I'm not going to say, this is the fact. So, please understand that sometimes we make mistakes, but this guy is doing it on purpose. And, it just is, the more you read of it, the more it infuriates you. And he goes through, we live in an idiocracy. And again, see, there is this mentality among these liberal people that anybody who is not a liberal is an idiot. I understand that liberals think differently than me. And there, but for the grace of God, go I. I mean, I might be in the same position had I not had godly parents that raised me up to the understanding of who God was and what the Bible had to say, and that the Bible was the instructions for us how to live and how to treat each other. So, if I had not been raised that way, I might think that way too. But when it comes to liberals, I try to treat them as people and try to reason with them. It doesn't always work, and it's very difficult to do sometimes with some people. And one of my best friends from high school, I just can't hardly talk to her because she shuts me down when I try to say things. She has her ideas, and I just can't compete with those. So anyway, with this, look what it says here. In a good month, the advertising revenue from his website earned him as much as $15,000 in a month. This guy is making money like crazy. And what's he making it doing? Deceiving people. And it had also won him a loyal army of online fans. Hundreds of liberals now visited America's last line of defense to humiliate conservatives who shared Blair's fake stories as fact. That's his purpose right there. His purpose is to deceive people and trick them into sharing his stuff so they can turn around and humiliate them. That's their purpose, and that's what he's trying to do to conservatives. In Blair's private Facebook messages with his liberal supporters, his conservative audience was made up of sheep, hillbillies, mama and papa, Trump-tards, potatoes, and taters. Now, you probably have noticed I'm not a real big fan of calling people names, even liberals. I know it's difficult, but they're all people. And I really think that when we start calling names, we do have a tendency to dehumanize people. So I don't really approve of calling them libtards and things like that. I understand a lot of people have no problems with that. And that's up to you. It's a personal thing. I'm not going to chew you out for doing it. If that's how you feel, go for it. But for me personally, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to resort to name calling, because the pastor I used to work with always said that when they run out of arguments, they start name calling. And that really is very true. So, we used to debate with a lot of people in those chat rooms. And I can tell you, that's what we found to be exactly what happened. If they started calling you a bunch of names, that meant that they were at the end of their argument. They had nothing else to put out there. So this article, it's kind of a long article, but then it goes into talking about this woman here, and it starts to really kind of make fun of her for being this trailer trash. She lives in a trailer, but it's a 3-bedroom trailer, and it was $100,000, so it's not a small time thing. I don't know what it looks like. But yeah, it goes through, and unfortunately she would click on those different articles that they were putting out, and she'd just share them and, get all outraged about them. That's why it's really important for us to vet the things that we're sharing, and that we click on like and everything, because I've gotten caught a couple times because I wasn't paying attention. But you need to remember that every time we get caught, the liberals are sitting there laughing at us, and they are hoping we humiliate ourselves. And part of the problem with this whole discernment thing is that there's always this little morsel of truth in there, and it's surrounded by a bunch of hooey. Now, let me tell you a little story. This was a story that I heard one time from a Joyce Meyers newsletter. Now, I have to tell you, I'm not a real big fan of Joyce Meyers, and I have reasons for it. But anyway, if you are, that's fine, whatever. But let me tell you this little story, because I think this is kind of an important story, and it's a good analogy that will show you what I mean by this. There was once this father, and he had, his kids were getting to the age where they wanted to go out and do some things. And the two teenagers came to him one day and asked if they could go see this movie that all their friends were watching. Well, it was an R-rated movie, and they weren't old enough. And he said, "No, I don't want you going." Well, they begged and begged and begged. So one day they came home from school, and the house smelled so wonderfully of brownies. It was just this wonderful brownie smell. And it just, the kids came in and they'd just gotten off of school and they were hungry. And, "Oh, Dad, can we have some brownies?" And he brings out the brownies all on a plate and looking very nice and delicious. And he said, "Well, yeah, you can. But before you start in, I want to tell you that these are special brownies. And you need to understand the special ingredient that I put in there." And they're like, "Oh, I don't care what the ingredients are. Just let me have one, Dad. I'm hungry. And, they smell so good." And he said, No. Let me tell you first. You can't have one until I tell you what the ingredients are." And he said, "I took the best chocolate out there, the most delicious, richest chocolate, and I incorporated it in there. And I added in, really high quality flour and all of these ingredients that made it so good. But I have one special ingredient." And they're like, "We don't care, Dad. Just give us one of the brownies. They smell so good." And he said, "Okay, well, I got to tell you what the special ingredient is." And he goes, "I included a little bit of dog poop. Now, it's not a whole lot. It's just a little bit. So, you probably won't even notice it." So, and he held out the plate. And of course, what do you think the kids did? Well, obviously they didn't eat it. He said, "The reason I did this was so that you could understand that while, that movie may be great, everybody might like it, but there might be some dog poop in there. There's some things that at your age you should not be witnessing." And so he said, "I didn't want you exposed to that." He said, "I'm protecting you from the dog poop in the movie, just like I'm protecting you from the dog poop that's in these brownies." And so this is kind of the whole thing that I think of when I go through this, because what they're doing with this fake news and what this article actually does is it takes things that are actually validly, factually true, that can be documented, proven to anyone, and it's presenting them in a way with some dog poop so that it makes those look fake. And that's what this whole article is really about. And this is what this guy was doing. He was going through and he was trying to write articles that purposely would humiliate conservatives because they would share them without vetting them. And this, I think, is probably what this person is doing here. Whoever is behind this website, it could be Media Matters, who knows? But we know from documentation that Media Matters is manipulating the media because that's what their document says. I have the document. It's in one of my previous videos. Their document states their plan, and their plan was to use social media against conservatives. And so I really think that this is part of their plan. There's so many things in this Washington Post article that are documented, that they put out there and say, this is just nonsense. But it's because they take something, Sharia law is being put through a lot of places. It's being normalized in the United States right now. And so they make it sound like, well, see, it's implemented here. No, they mess it up. They twist it around. And this is the whole point behind the angels of light. They're masquerading as angels of light. And they're trying to pretend that they're putting out truth when they're really not. And they twist things around. So we as conservatives have to be very clear of thought. One of the reasons why we're conservatives is because we tend to be more skeptical than people who are liberals. We tend to take something that is told to us, and we're kind of like Missouri. Show me. Okay? I want to see the factual basis. And liberals tend to be more of the emotional types, that they tend to process things through their emotions instead of through their mind. And so when you're dealing with hearts and minds, you have to be very careful about what you're doing. The people who are led more by their hearts tend to look at the emotional aspects. And you'll notice this was written for liberals because as he's going through, even up here at the very top, You remember it starts out, oh, the only light in the house came from the glow of the 3 computer monitors. It makes him sound like such a normal, good guy because it plays on the emotions. And then as you're going down, of course, then you get to the part where it says that he's doing this because he wants to humiliate conservatives. And that's, putting out a fact, because these are some of the facts. But the facts are so covered by all the other emotional stuff that they slip through the facts that they're trying to get people to believe. And this is something, actually, it's called neurolinguism. So if you ever look at neurolinguistic programming, look up that term. And it's a way of using words to kind of program people. And I believe this is why Obama always used a teleprompter when he was speaking. When he used a teleprompter, he was almost magical in how he spoke to the crowds, and the crowds would latch on to what he said. When he spoke without a teleprompter, he sounded like a bloomin' idiot because he kept stuttering. I mean, blah, 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 He couldn't put thoughts together. And the reason for that was because his speeches that were on the teleprompter were all crafted very nicely. They used this neurolinguistic programming crafting to put words together in just such a way so that they would basically deceive people. I mean, that's really what it does, to make people more accepting of what he had to say. Because the way neurolinguistic programming works, as I understand it, is that you will say, 2 or 3 things that everyone can accept, and then you slip in something that's not necessarily what the people would accept. So like, oh, children are our future, they're wonderful, and everybody's agreeing with them, and then we need to have gun control. It's just, that's how they do it. And if you listen, it was almost kind of funny when I was listening to his speeches, because I was aware of this at the time, and I was watching what he would say, and he'd say 2 or 3 phrases that everybody could agree on, and then he'd slip in one that we didn't agree with. And that's kind of how he works. And that's this whole neurolinguistic programming thing. This is how it works. It gets your brain into a kind of, takes it off guard, I guess you want to say it that way. And you drop your filter because you agree with his first 2 statements. So you kind of drop your mental filter, and then they slip in the part that they want you to believe and to change your opinion about. And so, be on the guard for that, because that's kind of how they work in different things. Although a lot of them now have just skipped over that. They're not even bothering with it anymore, because they're just telling people what they want them to believe, and because they say it so many times, people believe them. So anyway, like I said, I just wanted to point all this out to you, and I wanted to give you some ideas on how you can discern whether a website is valid or not. 2 basic things, go through, find the about, because usually there will be an about of some kind. If it's not there, sometimes they put it way down at the bottom, and you can check it out there. It all depends on the website. So go through, check them, and, this one is just so bogus. I got to show you this before I go. Look at this one. Lindsey Graham defends purchase of go back to it. Where is it? Anatomically correct statue. I'm sorry, I started laughing when I saw it, when I almost couldn't do the video because it's too funny. So there are some sites out there that are honestly satirical, and they want people to understand that they're satirical, like the Babylon Bee. That one's pretty funny, and it has more of, it's a conservative one, so it is definitely satire. So be aware when you see something by the Babylon Bee that that's not real news. It's something they made up as satire. And The Onion, you're probably familiar with The Onion, that also is satire. So yes, there are satire sites out there. So be careful. Some of them are just for the fun of satire, but some of them are doing it just for the purpose of humiliating conservatives. They love it when you guys fall for it. So please, take a little time before you share that on Facebook or Twitter, and, look over where it comes from. Firearms, 33 firearms. It may or may not be valid. And you need to make sure that you're checking things out. Go to the actual websites. Like I said, that was an easy one. I went to the Attorney General website and I found out he didn't have anything on the 28th. It would have said it here. So I'm saying, nope, it's not true. Okay. And I've got a couple of last real quick things. First of all, when it comes to what videos may be coming out for Barry, I think possibly it's the tarmac video. That's the big one because I think that's connected with the D class. If that's declassified, that's going to be huge because I believe, if I recall correctly, in all the research, I believe I saw that he's going to be included in that and that he was like on some kind of video call with them. So I think that's probably what's going to be coming out. Now, I'm not saying for sure that the tarmac is a video. It may only be a recording, okay, an audio recording. But either way, I believe that it has him in it too, and that it's going to include him in part of the deal that was made, to get Loretta Lynch in there because, that's going to be big. If that's going to come out, because we know that Admiral Mike Rogers kept that hidden, so it was miscategorized. So it wouldn't be destroyed by the Obama people. So that exists. That tarmac recording is out there somewhere. And when that comes out, it's going to be huge because it shows that they were planning this, that they needed to have Hillary exonerated just purely because she needed to be in as president so she could get Loretta Lynch in there as the AG again. And then when Ruth Bader Ginsburg stepped down, she was going to put her in as the new Supreme Court Justice. So that was the deal that was made. And I don't know if they're going to talk about Scalia and 187 there or not, but it's very possible that that's part of the conversation as well. Whatever the case is, that's going to be huge when that comes out. And it may be that he's trying to get ahead of that. That's my opinion on that. And the last thing is, I just wanted to leave you with something positive here. For our light and momentary troubles are achieving for us an eternal glory that far outweighs them all. Don't let it get to you, folks. Keep your chin up. We're getting close to having all this come out, and we need to make sure that we're focused on justice and not on revenge. Okay? So I want to thank you for stopping by, and I'll see y'all later.